Sanity.io, CMS, Headless CMS, traditional CMS, Drupal, WordPress. What do all these things mean? What is the difference between a CMS traditional and a headless CMS? Well, today we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be differentiating between traditional CMSs and a headless CMS. So with that said, kick your feet up, subscribe. Don't forget to like and comment, and let's jump right into this video. So what is a CMS? So a CMS stands for Content Management System, and we have the headless CMS and a traditional CMS. So let's start off with traditional CMS. With traditional CMS, we have text such as WordPress, Joomla, and Drupal. These are probably texts that you've heard before. So what makes CMS traditional different from headless CMS? We're going to dive right into that. With traditional CMS, let's use a scenario. Let's say you go into a restaurant, a pizza restaurant, and they serve you pizza being the content. Now, when you dine in with the pizza in the pizza place, they give you your pizza on the table. Like they give it to you with your utensils, with the table, meaning you eat on the table, and everything as such. So what does that mean? That means you get the content is served to you, and you're using the resources within that restaurant to access the content, meaning you're using their forks, you're using their table, you're using everything to access it. That's how a CMS works. With CMS, you're restricted to the templates and the themes that website gives to you. For example, here's an example of a portfolio website built using CMS. The CMS being used is WordPress. Now with WordPress, we're able to build blogs, small business websites, and portfolios. So here I'm able to select a theme or a template that WordPress provides to me that I can then edit to put my information in. As you can see, it's still relatively stylish. The only problem is I don't have the ability to customize it using like React, Vue, or any other front-end technology. As this is a traditional CMS, it acts as a one-stop shop for everything, meaning it controls my backend and my front-end. The only thing I'm able to edit are basically the text, the color, and minor CSS operations. So what makes this great is, like I said, it's a one-stop shop. It's used predominantly for smaller websites, and it typically helps with the hosting. So once you create the site, it gets hosted. Now there's other things that go into hosting where you can create your own domain and things like that, but typically it's a one-stop shop. Here, a React developer or a Vue developer or a Next.js developer doesn't have to worry about code. All they have to do is create this and customize it however they please. Now the problem with this is, now if I wanted this data transferred onto another website, I would have to rebuild that website. I cannot save this to the backend and then use that backend to then create another website. That's the main problem with traditional CMSs. Now with headless CMS, it's a tad bit different. With headless CMS, the reason it's called headless is because it's referring to the front end section of the website or the application, whereas the body would refer to the content of the website or the application. With a headless CMS, it's more flexible. It's not necessarily headless, it's just more flexible, meaning you have the ability to mutate how the data is presented on screen or on the website or on the web application. What does that mean? So for example, let's use a scenario here as well. Let's say you order a pizza, or you're just starving, so you want to order from the same or a different restaurant where you can get a pizza. Doesn't matter the pizza restaurant, you just want a pizza, you're hungry. So you go order a pizza. So the content again is the pizza as it is being made in the restaurant. Now the pizza is not being eaten, or it's not being consumed in the restaurant, it's being delivered. So now we're thinking API, we're delivering this content somewhere else. And how are we going to do that? We're going to use a delivery service. So this delivery service is going to be a front-end delivery. So it's coming right to you. You can see the delivery happen. So with the front-end delivery, for example, think of it as Uber Eats or DoorDash. Now in the terms of tech, this is going to be Vue, Angular, React.js, Next.js, anything that has a front-end component which you can use to render or deliver your content. as long as it's being delivered via that delivery system, it is now a headless CMS. For example, here I have an e-commerce store created, or a makeshift e-commerce store created. As you can see, we have various items here, and we have the ability to sort and everything over here. So now the problem is, what if I wanted to use this data on another website, or if I wanted to delete this data in my backend? Well, that's what makes Headless CMS so great. Now, I also created my own quote-unquote Headless CMS to show you how this works. Within this route called inventory management, what I'm able to do is I'm able to see all the items that I have in my store. I can go ahead and delete them. So once I click delete, you can see it's gone from my inventory management. Now, if I go back to my store, you can see that one of these items is missing because we had a row of 3 here. So one of these items are missing. And that's because we went ahead and we deleted something in a store. So this is how it would work with a headless CMS. With Nike or Adidas or any of these big name e-commerce sites, we're not able to use a traditional CMS in order to build our inventory. Why? We need a headless CMS because we need some kind of API endpoint to be reached in order to grab data that's then going to be shown on our front end, because we're using a programming language in order to render the data on the screen. So if we go back to our inventory, back in inventory management, which is acting as my headless CMS, if we scroll down now and we go to add a new item, we can go ahead and add tennis ball. As you can see, every other field has been filled out, including the image URL. So when I go ahead and submit this saves over here. This is now a part of my e-commerce website. Now, while it's saved to a database. My front end then calls the API, which would then pull this tennis ball onto my e-commerce site. On the e-commerce site, we can just simply scroll down, and this was the last thing we added. This is the tennis ball. As you can see, it has all the fields we need. What did we just do? We just used a backend API, which was our headless CMS, to create data and save it in the backend. We then used, in this situation, React.js to fetch that data and render it on our screen. This is what makes Headless CMS so versatile. We don't need our front end and our back end to be together in one web page, as this is on 2 different websites. We're just using an API to connect both the back end and the front end. We can also transfer this data to other websites as long as we can hit the API. That's what makes Headless CMS so great. Now that we understand how traditional and headless CMS work, we also have to realize that there are different times to use these technologies. For example, if I just wanted to build, like I showed you, a portfolio website, I can just use a template. Why? Because there are multiple templates for a portfolio website. Or if I want to build something for a small business, I can just look to see if there's a template for it. And if I like the styling, I can go ahead and use what's already given. Also, I can just easily host it onto a site like WordPress. However, if I don't want to do any of that and I want to create a robust application, let's say I wanted to make an e-commerce site with dynamically changing data that I'm putting in and taking out every day or every second or whatever, I want to use a headless CMS. It just makes it better. With a blog, I can also use a headless CMS depending on how often or how frequent I'm going to be changing my data. Or I could just stick to a traditional CMS if it's not going to be that much, or if I don't want the hassle. If you don't have great tech skills as of yet, or you don't want to learn a tech skill, CMS is the best way to go. Why? Because you don't have to really code anything. You can just write in any language, and by language I mean actual language like English, French, whatever. You can write in that as long as that's who you're trying to, as long as it appeals to whoever you want to see your website or your application. That's the great part of CMS. You don't need to know of traditional CMS. You don't need to really know any tech skills or any tech stacks. With headless CMS, you have to be familiar with the back end, but most especially the front end. With the back end, you need to know how to query things. With the front end, you need to know how to render things. Think of the headless CMS as just saving the data that you would then need to retrieve and post. or render. So with that said, I hope now you understand how headless and traditional CMSs work. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.